Jews, respecting the Christians. And even when we say, lakum dinukum waliya din, means it's your way, it's my way. La ikraha fi din, no compulsion in religious matter. It's your way, it's my way. This has to do with respect. But instead of repeating the verses, experience the meaning. Just show the meaning. This is the way you can show that you are loyal to your principles because you respect the people. It's an attitude, and it has to do with our way of living. But it's also an answer to the question. So sometimes the best answer to some questions is the way you behave, and not only the ongoing discussions about what Islam is not and what Islam should be. I think that this is problematic in our way to deal with some of these principles. And then, of course, out of this, there is a dialogue. And this is why I was telling you, listen to the fear and the mistrust around you. I'm sorry to tell you, and you have to repeat this, if you are a normal human being, and you listen to what is said today about Islam, if Islam is not a scary religion, you are not normal. Because of what is said in the media, because what the people think about Islam is scary. Once it seems to be violent, it seems to be expansionist, and then it seems to be silently taking over. And you are more and more visible. So how are we going to respond to this? By blaming the media, blaming the politicians, who just come to a better understanding of what should be the role of the people within the society to show this loyalty to principles, to attitude, to behavior, to communicate. And this is why I'm always saying we need 3 L's as citizens in our society or respective society. The first one is what we are talking about, is abiding by the law. We abide by the law, we respect the law, we don't have a problem with the law. But we want the law to respect us the same way in the way they are implemented. Equality means equality. Equity means equity. No discriminations mean no discrimination. So if we have the right to do something, we are going to go for it, because this is our rights. And this is also something that we have to learn from the African-American struggle, all the social justice and everything which has to do with the civic struggle in this society. This is something which is important. To take that we are not only speaking about being nice, no, rights are rights. And we are going to struggle for that. But in a wise way, not to be obsessed with our rights, sometimes look at something which is beyond. It's always good to be for justice, sometimes it's important to be for excellence. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adl wal ihsan. Justice, yes. And sometimes be careful not to be obsessed with justice because you are closing doors that the people cannot understand what you want because you are so obsessed with your rights and you forget the common good within the society. This is why you need to have a strategy, and you need to have your priorities. Don't let the people decide what is the right struggle for justice. Put your struggle for justice within a vision in the society. Because if you think that the people today who are creating all this controversy around the mosque in New York, they don't know you, you're naive. Many, they know exactly how you are going to react, because we are dealing with a Muslim community very emotional. Very emotional. Don't let the people decide your strategy and your priorities. Sometimes the priorities are elsewhere. So you should know we are not going to give up on our rights, but we are deciding the agenda. You're not going to decide the agenda and the leadership, because at the same time, it's very easy sometimes to push the Muslims toward a specific leadership. You push someone, you criticize someone, and the Muslims, they think that the more you are criticized, the better you are. Silly. It doesn't mean anything. It's not this, that you are not assessing the leadership in that way. So, I would say here that what is important in this is communicating with the society, to listen to the fear, to listen to the mistrust, to listen to the people around you, and to communicate. This is why the second important condition is the language of the country. And the language of the country, it's not only to speak English, it's to understand the culture, the American culture, the history, what was at stake within this society, to know how to deal with this society, to understand the sensitivity. And who else can do this, but the American Muslims who are living here. If and only if these American Muslims also start to talk to each other. Because it cannot continue like this, that you have immigrants coming from the Arab world, others coming from the Asian world, others being African American, and they didn't even talk. They don't know each other. I go to this mosque, you go to this mosque, this is my community, and we want to speak about Islam and being citizen. The experience of the African American, for example, is completely neglected. Anyone who hasn't studied the reality of racial discrimination in the United States of America cannot understand which strategy we need for the future. You can't. It doesn't mean that you are putting yourself within, but you know, you understand how it works to be able to come with an alternative. An alternative. And you listen to some of the people who are able. For example, even the people are coming to me and they speak about Malcolm X. Rahimahullah. You know, Malcolm X, the beginning he was racist with the Nation of Islam, and then he come to the true Islam during the last 2 years of his life. That's true. But listen and study what he did during the last 2 years. Understanding that I'm not going to fall into the trap of your struggle that you are putting me as a black Muslim. My relationship to Islam is beyond this. It has to do with justice. So he went to Africa. He went back here and he started to have alliances with people relying on principles, not on what he was pushed at the beginning to think that this was the right struggle. It's not because you struggle that this is the right struggle. You might be in the wrong field. You might be pushed in a struggle which is decided for you. So this is why you have to step back and to think about the vision. And to do this, you have to take advantage of all the legacy coming from the African American Muslims, coming from even, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the way he was talking to his society. He was talking about, you know, this discrimination, but he was talking with the narrative with the American citizens. He was not talking from the margin, in the center, in the middle, in the mainstream. This is where I am. And I'm talking as an American, telling you that what you are doing is undermining the very essence of America. He was integrating the narrative in his discourse, not putting himself on the margin. Many Muslims today decide by themselves to come from the margin and to remain in the margin. They speak to America from the margin. They are not part of the text. They are not part of the mainstream. Who is going to be in the mainstream? If not you, if not the citizens. And once again, in the text, they are not only Muslims. In the text, they are Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindu, agnostic, atheists. They may share with you some of the principles that you have. If and only if you are the witness of the principles and not only the attitude of the marginalized. This is an important point, and this is where we come to this sense of belonging. Remember that Musa alayhi salam, and this is something which is very important, it has to do with principles, but it has to do with the feeling. Moses in the Quran, alayhi salam, is talking to his people, and he's asking them, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ يَا قَوْمِ لِمَ تُؤْذُونَنِي وَقَدْ تَعْلَمُونَ أَنِّي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ إِلَيْكُمْ فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُم. He's talking to them, why are you just attacking me when you know that I am the messenger? They know that he was the messenger, and you are attacking me. But he's talking to them how? Ya qawmi. It's not because you are attacking me that I'm going to accept to be outside. I'm one of yours. So you want to put me on the margin, I will stay in the text. I will stay in the mainstream. And the way you behave, God made their heart going astray. But he remained. And look at this. لا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم وكذلك زينا لكل أمة عملهم. Look at this. A verse that we are very often quoting and we don't understand the meaning. Don't insult what they are worshipping instead of God. They will end up insulting God with no knowledge. So don't do this. Be sensitive to their sensitivity. Be very cautious not to insult what they believe, even if it's not, they don't believe in God, don't insult what they believe in. They are going to insult. But look at the verse that is, the part that is going, Allah, God has beautified for every single community what they are doing. Why? Because it's not only a question of principle, it's a question of feeling. We are right. It's beautified. We think it's right. كذلك زينا it's to beautify لكل أمة عملهم. What they do is beautify in their eyes, so they think it's right. So if you think that what you are doing is right, I should come from within as part of what you are doing, as this feeling, it's important. I'm not going to change the understanding of the people only by talking about principles and justice and struggle. I'm going to deal with their feeling. I'm going to deal with the heart. I'm going to deal with their understanding, what is beautified in their heart and mind. If you get that, you understand how you have to be inside the society as citizen with this sense of belonging. The sense of belonging is to be part of the ummah and not to accept to be marginalized. And let me come now. I still have 10 minutes or 8 minutes, that's right. So let me come to the last concept, and this is where we have to be together. It's with this loyalty to the principles, to be loyal and to be able to say to someone, if you ask me what you are first, I would say, look, first, I'm somebody with a belief and I belong to my principles. I will try to be consistent wherever I am, with Muslims and with non-Muslims. I'm not having this, belonging to a community against another. You are just, I'm with you. You are unjust, I'm against you. I'm unjust with myself, I'm against myself, because this is what is said in the Quran. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. That you have to be just, even if it's against yourself. So be critical with your own self. You have this. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم. So you have to bear witness of this truth in front of God, even if it's against you, your parents, or your relatives. If the people are rich or poor, justice should prevail. Justice has precedence of all this. This is who I am first. And then, if you want to ask me if I am an American, a Swiss, a Muslim, or I'm all this at the same time. I have multiple identities. Multiple identities. It's not a problem for me to have all these identities. So if I'm going to vote, I'm going to vote with my principles as an American. If I'm going to face my death, I'm facing my death as a Muslim and as a believer. If I'm going to speak about my tradition with my principles, and I'm looking at my tradition, my country of origin, as an Egyptian. So I'm Egyptian by origin, Swiss by nationality, Muslim by religion, Universalist by principle, Moroccan by adoption. Not a problem. And that's true, by the way. But you get the point, which is don't accept to be reduced to this. So you talk to your fellow citizens in a way which is an open way, a critical way towards yourself and an open way towards the other. And then comes the concept of citizenship, that we abide by the law, we have the language of the communication, and then you are loyal to the country. And we want the best for this society. So this is the starting point. Olivier Roy, the sociologist, is saying, if you want to live together as Americans or as Europeans, only rely on the law. Say there is a framework, the rule of law, on which we rely on, that's it. I think it's good, but it's not enough. We have to go beyond that, because we need to have this communication, and we need to have this sense of belonging. Laws are not shaping attitudes, behavior, and mutual understanding and respect. We need more than that. So, and it's even counterproductive. If you only rely on law and legislation, it could be counterproductive. Because it's always like this. I'm just summarizing this in one way. If you trust the people you live with, you read the law by integrating them into the law. But if you mistrust the people on which you want to implement the law, you will protect yourself with the law or in the name of the law against them. You will protect yourself. So you put them outside. So if you trust the people, you are inside. If you don't trust them, you protect yourself with the law. You protect yourself from them. So this is something which is an attitude that we have. For example, the headscarf in France, and even today, you go for by law, it's right to build a community center in New York. This is by law, it's right. And some are going to use the law by saying, oh no, it's now you are using the law against us. So